2018 season is now over, and we have two new world champions in the form of Jorge Prado in MX2 and Jeffrey Herlings, who clinched his first MXGP title. So, take a seat and listen to the story of how they both realised their dreams.
Coming into the first round in Argentina, I couldn't say I was 100% ready because I started riding 2 weeks before this race on the bike. And coming to Argentina, my goal was to stay inside the top 5, top 10, get some points and get out of this race safe. This was the most important thing. The race didn't go as planned, but I knew there was some positive things that I could take out of this GP. Valkenswaard, it's a track that I really like. It's more soft. It was a GP that I really enjoyed. It was the first GP of the season where I was close for winning, almost made it, finishing 2 times second behind Pauls, really close to him, both motos. So, in that point, I thought that yeah, this season can be interesting. Home GP in Spain, it's always great. Hearing the crowd cheer on you when you pass by, it's great. But it was a GP where I put a lot of pressure to myself. I did my best, came out really happy from the GP in Spain.
3 GP victories in a row now for Jonass, the defending champion. Prado was third and still warming up, but was already 45 points behind the Latvian, who'd held the red plate since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Trento was a GP that I was really waiting for. I got there my first win last year, and it's a great atmosphere as well. Racing in front of the Italian fans, especially having an Italian team behind me, and it was a GP where I was coming knowing that here I can do small change in the championship, and I did. I won the GP again, 1 more year, and you know, I was really happy.
Prado won the overall once again, and he's now second in the standings, just 28 points behind Jonass.
Over the past few weeks, Prado in MX2 has had some solid results, breaking down that gap between himself and Jonass to just 9 points. Welcome to Indonesia for round 12, the MXGP of Indonesia.
It's not my favorite to race in the other side of the world. I like more to race in Europe, but you know, it's a world championship, so you also need to go to different places. And Indonesia, it's really special. Now, if I think back, it's a special GP, a totally different culture, and the track also pretty different.
Before race 1, Jonass held a 9-point advantage over Prado and extended it to 13 after he took second to Prado's 4th. And before race 2, the atmosphere was tense, and you could almost cut it with a knife.
On a rapidly drying track, Calvin Valandren took his first ever foxhole shot for Team HRC. Valandren, though, was in a class of his own. He took his first ever foxhole shot, his first ever race win, and with it, his first ever overall Grand Prix victory, the first for a South African since September 7th, 2008. Tyler Rattray picking up the win that day. Covington was second overall, Prado third, Watson and Jonass rounding out the top 5. Jonass now has a slender 7-point lead over his teammate Prado. The Spaniard picking up 2 points. A mixture of emotions on the podium. Valandren happy with his win. Covington knowing he should have done better, and Prado pleased that he's got that gap down to 7 as we head to round 13.
Semarang, new track, new place, totally different than the first round in Indonesia. A track way different than we are used to ride, where everything is bigger, just wider, bigger. But it was fun to ride. It was a really hard-packed track. I think to be the first GP in that place, it was a good GP. Coming into the second moto in Semarang, I started the race and I whole shot. He crashed, but I didn't know he crashed, so my goal was to push every lap, and that's what I did.
Prado and Jonass left Semarang on the same points, and there was another podium for Vlaanderen, who this time finished third. The defending champion, Paul Jonass, still had the red plate by virtue of his race win count, but all that was about to change.
Look, it was a really special race for me. I got the red plate over there after 2 solid motos. Could also get the overall, so it was a special weekend as well. A really hard-packed track where I was coming, and I thought that I could do a good race because when I was living in Spain, I used to ride in a track pretty similar to Locket, so I was really motivated for this GP. Turkey was a difficult GP, let's say. Everything happened. On Saturday, Pauls had the qualifying race win, I was second. On Sunday, first moto, I started first, he passed me, and then I was coming close to him, and I decided to make a pass. Both lines got together, so he jumped on me, but he crashed. I got out of the track, and that allowed Covington to get that win.
Covington pushed too hard in race 2 and crashed. Jonass won the race, but Covington won his first and only GP of the year.
For the final round of the 2018 MXGP campaign, 250 people worked with 25,000 cubic meters of soil to prep a brand new track for everyone. In MX2, the battle for the title finished prematurely this week. Prado arrives here with a 46-point lead on Jonass, but the defending champ couldn't avoid having knee surgery and, frustratingly for him, will miss this final round. So, Jorge Prado is the 2018 MX2 World Champion.
I was really happy when they told me, "You're the new world champion."
I worked really hard for it, and we all got it, the team too.
Yeah, next year I will stay in the MX2 class and for sure try to win again. Get the title again. It's not difficult, but no, it's really difficult.
It was a very intense first race, you know, Argentina coming there, high expectations, you know. Everybody was waiting for the fight. Herlings vs Cairoli, you know, runner-up in the championship the year before against the world champ. And, you know, it was tough because I had 2 not so good starts, but I fought my way through. In the first moto was battling with Tony for almost the full moto, but just couldn't get past him. And then in the second moto, you know, I've been coming through the pack. I won the GP on the last lap, you know. I fought my way all the way back to Tony, and then you know, I had only 1 or maybe 2 laps to pass him, and that's what I did. So to start off the season with a win was very important, and especially the way how it happened. So to come out there with a GP win was pretty intense, and it was nice. It was a good feeling also because the next GP was in Valkenswaard at my home. Obviously, coming to Red Sand, you know, I had high expectations to go out and win there because I was there a lot in the winter times and I was hoping to go there for the win, but I had 2 bad starts again out there, and you know, that's what made it really difficult for me. It was not a great GP, but we still went 2-2. We lost the red plate there. It was the only race when we lost it for the whole year, but you know, it is what it is, and I think to win the championship you need to be good on the bad days as well, and that was not a perfect day for me.
Tony Cairoli took back the red plate, but he and Herlings were now on the same points as we headed to Italy.
Arco di Trento was really good round 4 of the championship. We went in there, you know, didn't know what to expect. Tony's home race, you know, going into the Lions Den, let's say, and we found some things in the weeks before with the starts, and I think that was really one of the key points. And there I blasted my first hole shot, I think, in Moto 1. Also second moto I had a really good start. So I think that really helped at that track. It's a pretty tiny track, I would say. That's what I personally think. And to have a good start that was important, and to go there 1-1. And I extended the points lead with 10 points over Tony that weekend. So it was a great one to obviously beat Tony in front of his home crowd and at a track which is not my favorite. So that was good.
Unfortunately, Tony Cairoli could not replicate this performance from last year. He finished 3rd behind Desalle and was still on the podium. Herlings took back the red plate and left Italy with a 10-point lead over the Sicilian.
This is the second time the MXGP calendar has stopped along the beautiful beaches of the Black Sea.
Coming to Russia, it was a tough one for me because we had some problem on the way there. We lost our baggage, and you know, I had like 1 or 2 sleepless nights because we didn't know where the bags were, where my riding stuff was, and whatsoever. And with the visa, it wasn't easy. So you know, coming in there, I was already really tired, and it was actually one of the races I didn't win this year. Kawasaki won that weekend, and we went 3-1, and still was a good day for the championship, but it was different to the year before. The year before was very muddy, and this shit was hard and pretty concrete even, so it was a hard track, but we enjoyed it. 3-1, not the best of days, but you know, it was good for the championship.
The consistency and the experience from the Belgian paid off. Desalle went 1-2 to win the GP. Herlings still had the red plate with a 23-point lead over Cairoli, but despite his win, Desalle, who was now back up to 3rd, was already 74 points behind the leader.
Great Britain was one of the most intense races I've had this year, and even in my career, because both starts I was good, but Tony took both times the whole shot, I think, and you know, I had to chase him and run him down and try to pass him. And first moto it got gnarly because we even touched, just a small touch, but obviously Tony crashed, and I managed to win the first moto. And second moto again, I passed Tony on the last lap. So it was very intense battling and a very intense race, but I loved it. I liked it. Was a good weekend. But that was a tough one because we really had to go until the wire, and yeah, I was lucky to come out on top.
Matterley Basin was once again the theatre of drama. The podium was a little bit quiet, but Herlings celebrated his 7th Grand Prix win of the season as Romain Febvre climbed the podium for the first time this year, with 3rd overall.
When I had the practice crash, I think somewhere in June, you know, halfway the season, you know, we were leading with 62 points, if I remember right, and then, you know, I broke my collarbone and I was like, oh God, no, not again, you know. So I really had you know, I started getting sweaty hands, and it was a tough time, you know, also mentally, to watch behind the TV the race in Ottobiano and to see your biggest competition go 1-1, get the full 50 points, and yourself being on the couch with a lot of pain, being injured with 2 broken ribs and a broken collarbone. So at that point I was like, oh no, not again, please. But you know, we fought our way through, and you know, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and luckily that was for me as well this year. You know, I've given everything to the sport all my life, you know, to just try to win this MXGP World Championship. It's It's my main goal in life at the moment, and it's going to be very difficult. You know, I have one guy against me, which is 9-time world champ and a top athlete and a top rider, so it's going to be very tough. And to win this battle, you know I need to be 110% focused, trying to do everything I possibly can to achieve this goal. It would be amazing to win against Tony Cairoli, the man for the last 10-15 years. You know, he's on his best he's probably ever was. So if I can beat him straight up now in a direct fight, you know, for the championship, that will be unbelievable, and anything can happen. You see with the collarbone, you know, I was leading by over 60 points, and in one weekend, boom, it was only 12 points left. So it's at the moment, I would say 50% chance. It's normally going to be either me or either him, if we don't get injured anymore at least. So it's going to be a long 3 more months. Coming to MXGP Switzerland, I knew what to expect. It's a nice track. It's a track where they built for just the race, and I like it. You know, obviously they did good preparation, and it's a fun layout. And you know, most importantly was the results, what we went home with, and that was also a 1-1. So really enjoyed my weekend there. The Swiss fans were amazing. So really pleased with that, and did good things for the championship there, because my biggest competition, Tony Cairoli, had not such a good weekend there, and he had a pretty good big crash in the first moto, very unfortunate. But yeah, for the championship, for me it was a good event. I never really thought like, hey, it's going to be my championship, because when I started thinking that, I broke my collarbone. So I said to myself, I'm not thinking about the championship, I'm not going for 5th or 3rd or play safe. I'm just going to go there, have fun, do my best and try to win, and every single time go out and try to win. You know, I felt like that was the best tactic to, instead of defend, just fight, you know. And yeah, it was, but the day in Assen for sure was, you know, the nerves were coming, you know. I was really scared to get injury through practice and whatsoever, but we played it all safe, and we came there, and we even won it in domination style, you know, won over 30 seconds the first one in front of my home fans, and that was maybe the best day of my life, you know, to win there in front of my home crowd, the full tribune, many orange, and it's like an unpayable moment, you know, like that feeling, that moment, that adrenaline is just hard to describe, you know. You want to cry, but you want to smile at the same time, and you feel like so released because you finally have the championship, all the pressure falls away, so yeah, it's just an amazing feeling. To become 3-time MX2 world champion and MXGP world champion, that's, you know, one of the biggest championships you can win in this sport. So obviously the only thing I want to do is repeat it, you know, repeat to become MXGP world champion again in the future. So that's our goal, and that's what we're going to fight for.
What an incredible 2018 season we've had this year, and it was pretty much the perfect season for KTM, with crowning 2 new world champions. Jorge Prado claimed his first MX2 world title, and Jeffrey Herlings won his 4th world title. He now has 3 in MX2, and after being a runner-up last season, has reached his ultimate goal with his very first MXGP world title. The battle was also really close between Desalle and Kjer, but in the end, it was Desalle who finished 3rd in the championship. Now, there is no time to rest, as many riders will be representing their nation next weekend at the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations. So, we'll see you there.
The riders charged downhill into turn 1 for race 1. It was a fantastic start for Jorge Prado on the MX2 machine. Tony Cairoli grabbed the lead but fell on the exit of the turn and handed the foxhole shot to Jeffrey Herlings. But he too would fall just a few corners later and hand the advantage to Prado. Herlings though was soon back in his stride, made a move on Lawrence and then Colton Faciotti of Canada to move back into 3rd. Meanwhile, Eli Tomac found his way past his teammate Aaron Plessinger for 9th, but Plessinger then fell a few corners later. After his poor start, Tony Cairoli found a way past Calvin Verlanderen of the Netherlands to move into 11th, but it was a difficult race for the Dutchman. And after several attempts, Herlings eventually made his way past Gauthier Paulin to go 2nd, and then went after Prado for the lead. As they went down past pit lane, Herlings eventually put the squeeze on the young Spaniard. That pass was for the lead. Dylan Ferrandis was having a fantastic race for France in 6th, but then he got passed by Desalle from Belgium just after the halfway mark. Desalle almost fell whilst taking off his goggles, and Tommy Searle was out due to a mechanical from 4th. Ferrandis eventually took 7th, Cairoli came home 6th, Desalle 5th, America's Tomac eventually came home in 4th place. Herlings, though, won race 1. Paulin was 2nd, Prado of Spain was 3rd. At the start of race 2, Henry Jacobi and Travis Pastrana had bike issues right before the gate drop. The rest of the riders charged down into turn 1. Alessandro Lupino thought he made the start. He tagged a rider on the exit of the turn and was lucky to stay up. This time the foxhole shot went to Glenn Coldenhoff of the Netherlands. As he opened up a lead, in front of Prado, Watson was in 3rd and Jeremy Seawer was 4th. Dylan Ferrandis made that move around the outside of Harry Kulas to move into 7th place as Hunter Lawrence started to find his way through traffic. He made a move on Medaglia, and then Ferrandis moved up to 5th. Ferrandis also passed the Canadian for 6th place. Mitch Evans from Australia fell from 9th, and Justin Barsha of the United States took full advantage. Meanwhile, on lap 7, Hunter Lawrence overtook Seawer. That was for 4th place, and he was the 3rd best MX2 rider after Watson and Prado. Jordi Tixier of France then fell from 14th as he tried to make a move on Chervelin of Italy. With Prado and Watson battling the whole race for 2nd, Hunter Lawrence was closing in fast. And with 2 laps to go, the Australian made a move on Watson down the inside into a tight left. That put him into 3rd. And around the same time, Jordi Tixier went out with an engine failure. France, all of a sudden, were in danger of failing to lift the trophy for a 5th consecutive season. Hunter Lawrence, though, found his way past Prado. That put him into 2nd. Dylan Ferrandis fell in what was a nightmare race for Team France. He went from 6th to 8th, but it was Glenn Coldenhoff who rode the perfect race to win. Lawrence was 2nd, Prado 3rd, Watson and C were your top 5. The final race of the day. Travis Pastrana on board right to the outside, but this time Alessandro Lupino made sure that he picked up the foxhole shot, but Glenn Coldenhoff quickly found his way into the lead on the opening lap. As he started to pull clear, Jeffrey Herlings made a move on Cairoli, top right corner of your screen, to put himself into 7th. Coldenhoff led from Lupino, Paulin and Roxon. Jeffrey Herlings was in a hurry, snuck up the inside of Max Nagel. That put him up into 5th. And just shortly afterwards, Cairoli also made a move on the German. Herlings then squeezed past Gauthier Paulin for 3rd, and in the same corner, Cairoli also passed Roxon for 5th. Herlings then passed Lupino on lap 4 to take over 2nd position. At the top of the hill, Paulin and Cairoli almost touched. The championship was down to French and Italian teams. Paulin stayed 3rd briefly, but then Cairoli dove down the inside of the Frenchman. He then had to throw his goggles, and that was a massive turning point in the race. He made a slight mistake on the inside, and Cairoli was then passed by Nagel and Paulin. Lupino also came under threat and was passed by Nagel. But then he fell just a few corners later out of this left, handing the advantage back to Lupino and Paulin, who then went past the Italian over on the far side of the circuit and put himself in a commanding lead over the Italians. Glenn Coldenhoff, though, was supremely sensational. He came over the line with a double moto win. That helped the Netherlands to the third step of the podium. Paulin, though, was victorious for France. Italy, the Netherlands rounding out the podium here in the USA. And despite all their problems, France are the world champions yet again. Fantastic performance, though, from the Netherlands, down to 2 riders as they went into the second race. And Italy on the podium for the first time since Germany. Another fantastic advert for MXGP and the MXoN, this time in the USA.
Once again, the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations was totally epic. The fans were on their feet until the very last moment to witness another page of motocross history. The European riders showcased their dirt bike skills and took up every step of the podium, and did so on American soil. The battle was close between Team Italy and Team Netherlands, who finished second and third respectively. But for the 5th consecutive time, Gauthier Paulin and his French teammates will be taking the Chamberlain Trophy back home to France. We're now going to celebrate before recharging our batteries, so we're ready for the 2019 MXGP season. Bye for now!